The concept of obstruction consists of those situations where your opponent is, like, let's say, controlling something, like this rook is controlling the d file and is willing to take the pawn on the way to promotion. And so what the secret here to get out successfully from this situation is to play bishop e4 in this specific puzzle. But how does it work? Like, we've basically put something between the piece that is attacking our most threatening piece, which is this pawn, threatening to become a queen. And now we will be able to push the pawn to promote. Rook takes bishop doesn't work because that will come with pawn check, making a fork, and then white wins. Another situation where the obstruction is necessary is this one. The pawn is willing to go up and promote into a queen. The rook is controlling it. So the solution here is rook to b5. The good thing about this move is that the pawn is protecting the rook. So after rook to b5, we're threatening to promote immediately. And, well, of course, king doesn't make it in time to protect because we promote with check. It's going to be game over. And the rook just doesn't have anything except taking. But when that happens, then the white player can take the pawn, and that's going to be it. Of course, white is threatening to promote immediately, so after king to c7, white wins after taking the pawn. This is another situation where obstruction is necessary. So basically, this pawn we have in b4 is willing to go up all the way to promotion, but the problem is for the white player that the black bishop, after the pawn moves to e5, the black bishop will reach the square c8 and will control the square b7 forever. Our opponent will never promote, and black will win in material and pawn structure. So the best move by white now is bishop to e5. This move stops the e6 pawn from moving, and that means that now the bishop is no longer defending the diagonal, and so the pawn will be able to promote. The king doesn't make it in time because of the rule of the square. So let's say, for example, king f7, pawn, king e7, pawn, and then either way the king goes, let's say, d7, but then pawn goes up. The king can't make it because of the bishop controlling this diagonal. And if the black player spends time capturing the bishop, then he will waste a tempo that is good enough for us to promote without worrying about the king. So if pawn takes, we can go up. And this is just the rule of the squares. We are 4 steps away from promotion, and this is a square of 4 times 4. The king is just not inside of it, not even after the jump. So the pawn will promote, right? Let's make an example. Yeah, so the king doesn't make it. So going back to this position, bishop e5. It's also important to calculate the number of steps missing to promotion. So like 4 steps to promotion. If pawn takes, you know that black is going to have to play 1, 2, and 3 to get to c8 right when our pawn is in b7. So pawn push, and then pawn push, and then pawn push, and then same thing, but now b7. And this bishop hasn't made it in time. This example is similar to the previous one. So we have a square where this pawn is in b2, a2, and wants to go to a8. So it's 7 square, 7 times 7, but the first step can be 2 steps, so it will be 5 times 5. The thing is that the black king will be able to jump into the square right after the move. That means that the king will make it. So we move to a4, the king goes to e4, and there's 5 steps to the end, 5 steps on the side, and so this is a square, and the black king, the opponent king is inside of it. That means that the black king will be able to take the pawn. So the key move now, knowing that the king will be able to go on a diagonal, the key move is to stop that diagonal, and white plays d5 with the threat of playing d6, d7, and promoting. The king doesn't make it in time to go after the pawn, so black will have to take the pawn. Either way, the white player can now jump to a4, and now the black king doesn't have that access. He will have to waste an extra tempo either way, and that is crucial. So king moves and then pawn, and then the king will have to go around, and then the king just doesn't get into the square, and the pawn is promoting. In this last example of obstruction, we have a pawn that wants to go to a8 to promote, but it will be taken right away by the rook. We don't have any significant checks or anything that can lead to a winning situation. So the move here is bishop to a6. This is also because the rook and the bishop were threatening the pawn together, and if we hadn't blocked it, we would have lost that pawn. So after bishop to a6, now the funny thing is that if rook takes bishop, we have check, and then our bishop is no longer in c8, and we will be able to protect the promotion square. So let's say rook takes bishop, then check. And then whatever the black king does, we'll be able to promote next move, and we get to play rook against bishop, because the black rook will have to sacrifice for the queen. If instead, well, the black player, what can he do to stop the promotion of the queen? Well, in this case, taking the pawn, but that gives white a considerable advantage.